After a couple optimistic days in the crypto market, we are seeing the crypto crash continue to worsen. Now, does this mean it's time to sell? Is it time to pack up and go home and the 4-year cycle's over? The 4-year cycle was confirmed, all of this type of stuff. Well, now is really kind of the decision time, and is of course up to you to make your own decisions. There are a lot of people who think that the 4-year cycle is still a thing, and there's a lot of people that think that because of that, we've already seen our tops. There's not going to be an alt season. There's not going to be a blow off top. All of this type of stuff this time around. Possibly. I mean, that is entirely possible, but we just don't know, at least in my opinion, quite yet. I do think that there are some other kind of extenuating circumstances within the macro environment that do provide a potential very strong counter alternative here. Now, again, that's not to say that it's going to happen, but it is something that I am at least looking very closely at. So I want to show you all of that type of stuff today. But first off, let's go ahead. We'll just kind of take a lay of the land and the state of the market as it is right now. You will see here, this is the second day in a row that we are sitting in extreme fear within the crypto market. The fear and greed index, again, generally when we are down at this level, it has typically been a decent time to buy. Now, again, this does not mean we are at the absolute pico bottom of what we will see prices be at, because of course we were actually lower in extreme fear yesterday, but today we are lower in price. So it's not always an indicator of when the exact bottom is, but generally if you do look at a kind of macro scale, it is generally toward the bottom of the market here. Now, it's not, again, you'll see here we got into extreme fear at around, what do we want to call this, like Bitcoin price is about 55,000. We actually did see a price dip even further down to about 53,000 several weeks later. But what you can see is we were actually generally toward the bottom of kind of the pullback here. You'll see a similar type of thing here. We hit into extreme fear. Price was about 84,000. We did see prices dip even further down to as low as about 76,000, where we also hit into extreme fear again. But again, you could see we were relatively close to the bottom here. And then again, another really strong move back to the upside. So you, of course, can make the decision yourself of if you think that we are going to see a similar type of circumstance play out, or if we are going to see price continue to move further and further to the downside and have this kind of bear market that a lot of the 4-year cycle believers are predicting. Now, if we go ahead and we look at the total 3 market cap, again, this is everything excluding the market caps of Bitcoin and Ethereum, we're seeing actually something very, very interesting. While we are seeing Bitcoin sweep the lows that we have not actually seen prior to May, and kind of coming right out of that really like kind of scary tariff bounce that we saw, we're actually seeing Bitcoin sweep those lows. We're not seeing the altcoin market sweep those lows quite yet. You can see here, these were the lows in April. We're kind of down back in the range of about 650 billion, even coming out in kind of the May range. This is where we saw that first break up from Bitcoin. You could see that we were in kind of like the $860 billion range. We did get relatively close. Well, actually, we fell below it with this kind of liquidation move. We also fell near it in kind of the most recent sell-off, but we have not gotten there quite yet. Now, of course, we haven't necessarily seen a bottom per se. We could see this continue to go lower and lower, and potentially we do start to hit some of these levels. But you'll see, if you compare this to the Bitcoin chart, the altcoins still currently appear to be in a slightly stronger position relative to Bitcoin, which is quite unusual, I would say. This is not something that we would see, at least kind of structurally from a chart perspective, which I do think is very interesting and worth pointing out. You will also see we are kind of starting to see, the price movement start to deviate a little bit from the RSI movement. RSI is kind of like continuing on that downtrend, where price, while continuing on a downtrend, is starting to it doesn't seem to have as steep of a slope. But again, we'll have to see, that is starting to get a little bit kind of off in the weeds, if you ask me. I think we can keep it much simpler. Now, you'll also see in the crypto market, the crypto market was not the only thing affected. $1.2 trillion has been wiped out from the US stock market just today. You'll see some of the biggest ones like Tesla, Google, Amazon, Nvidia, all losing anywhere between 2.5% to over 6% in the case of Tesla. So lots of different moves happening here in the stock market as well. And the reason for a lot of this is because there's a general sense of fear and a general sense of uncertainty that is coming coming into the market as it relates to economic data that's coming in. And so I do think that there is a lot of people just starting to kind of recycle and kind of rebalance their portfolios to just be a little bit more risk off and a little bit risk averse, because there are a bunch of different risks actually lingering in the market right now. And of course, when we are in a risk off type of environment, that's generally not a great thing for crypto. Now, of course, we have seen the US government reopen. We are seeing the rate cut cycle continue. We are seeing a lot of different macroeconomic factors that could be very, very good for the crypto space in the long term. But in the short term, we might have to kind of endure some more bumpiness before we get back to that. And so, of course, you'll see here today on the crypto bubbles, another red day in the market, a pretty difficult and kind of strong red day all around. You can see here AB and Quant are the two that are actually green on the day. Basically everything else is red, in anything varying. I would say the average here is probably about 5 to 7% on average, but we are seeing things down up to 10, even CC down here up over 16%. So there's a lot of different kind of things going on here in the market, but overall I would say that like we're seeing the altcoin market holding up decent-ish, kind of compared to what we're seeing out of Bitcoin. Now, we can see the market down an average of, let's call it 6%. We can see Bitcoin down about 3% just on the day. So Bitcoin not moving quite as dramatically as the rest of them, but we are still seeing kind of some of those major moves happen. Now, the thing that I find really important here is, again, if we go back to the liquidation map, you will see on the 1 day, very, very strong bias now towards a move to the upside here with about almost $4 billion at about 109,000 range. We've been there within the past several weeks. However, again, another $1 billion down around the $97,000 range. So this is something that we definitely should be kind of weary of and expect a possible kind of wick back down to this level to see liquidations of this before we see a move back to the upside. Again, we're looking for kind of total magnitude of move, but we also need to be looking at kind of the slope of the liquidation maps to see where we could see kind of an initial short-term move before. And so right now, at least on the daily or the 1 day, it does appear that we might be seeing a possibility of a further move to the downside. Now, if we look at the 7 day here, you will see a similar type of thing, very, very skewed towards a move to the upside, liquidating shorts. Now, again, there is another kind of I would say bucket of liquidity here to the downside. However, the slope is not nearly the same as what we're seeing out of the 1 day. So this does mean potentially we do actually see more of a move closer to the upside here, but there is still kind of a lot here to the downside where we could see kind of that quick scoop, liquidate a couple $1 billion and then see a move back to the upside. On the 30, again, a similar type of magnitude here with a lot of shorts moving towards the upside here, but again, about another $1.7 billion if we get into the high 96s. So lots of different kind of like shorts, I would say, or longs out there that we could still see liquidated before we see a move back to the upside. I don't think we're at quite max pain quite yet, because I do think there are still a decent number of people trying to catch the bottom here, and I think we could continue to see sellers try and exhaust some of that liquidity that comes out before we see a push back to the upside. I do still think probably in the relatively short term we see another bounce back to the upside. However, again, I do not know for sure. I cannot predict the future, so you will have to decide which side of this argument in this debate that you are on. Are you on the side of the bears? Are you on the side of the bulls? That is, of course, what makes markets, right? I mean, that's quite simply how markets work. So moving along here, I want to take a look at some of the top, kind of the top altcoins that we are talking about on the channel. Now, first off, you will see here, we are talking about ZBCN. It has broken. It kind of actually almost tried to get up above the yellow line, which we would consider like a slightly positive thing, but we've actually broken back down, gotten rejected by that yellow line, and we are now making our way down potentially towards the orange line here. Now, again, orange is, I would say, kind of like slightly concerning. I would say yellow is not really too concerning. Orange is slightly concerning, and then if we continue to go further down, we don't have a red line here, but red line is quite concerning. So again, what we can see here, this green line continues to be the thing that we need to break. we really aren't even in a reasonable chance of testing this quite yet, so we'll just have to be kind of waiting for a while for ZBEC. But ZBEC, I still do think is doing quite well. They actually did just get listed on the Europe, one of the EU's largest exchanges, which is really great to see. So I do think ZBEC will be primed to move again in more favorable conditions. We are not in favorable conditions for an alt season quite yet, which is why we aren't really seeing much of the moves that maybe some people might be expecting. Now, moving on, of course, we will be taking a look at ICP, because ICP has seen some really nice moves over the past several weeks. And again, this has been a huge thing for, you know, kind of the ICP community. Now, you will see a couple of different things here. It has fallen back into the top end of what I would call this liquidity zone, and actually even slightly below that. However, we are seeing a nice little support level forming kind of at or near the ranges that we have seen before, where ICP price has actually been rejected. So again, this is a very dangerous place to be. There is the possibility that ICP price kind of tries to consolidate here, gets rejected, and continues a further move down. Historically, given what we have seen from ICP and kind of just the general weakness on the chart, I am not ruling that out of possibility. But we have seen some kind of recent nice bullish moves, so I am hopeful that ICP can keep that same level of momentum and continue to see a further move to the upside. Now again, kind of the obvious moves we need to see: first off past 640, next off past 680, and then of course we need to see a break past this green line. Again, there are people who kind of maybe believe in this to varying degrees, but you will see, if we look back, this line has been relatively instructive for where we find fairly heavy levels of selling. You can see here we actually did try to break above it, but then did promptly get rejected here. And so this is again kind of what I'm looking at, and we need to see a sustained break above this level, or else this does remain to be a kind of a worrying sign for ICP, where we continue to see kind of high or lower swing highs. If this becomes a swing high, that is not a great thing to see. So that is of course what I am looking at very closely. So time will tell here. We'll just have to kind of see how that ends up rolling out. Now let's go ahead and take a look at Kaspa. This will be the last one that we take a look at, and then we'll wrap it up. Here you can see Kaspa not doing anything too crazy. It does appear to have fallen into a descending channel. It got kind of towards the top of the channel here, got rejected, and is now starting to move down. Now again, the key level that we'll be looking to see on its move to the downside is holding up at this 4.2 cent range. If it does break below, of course, anything as low as 3.5 cents, even kind of just going all the way down to even the 2 cents, even further down is possible as long as it stays in this descending channel. So we are seeing a lot of cryptos kind of pull this similar type of thing, where we are seeing lower highs, lower lows. This is a downtrend. It's clear as day to see. Until we see some momentum break this and continue to see a move back to the upside, that's where we're at, and that's where we're going to be sitting. So overall, like I said, you need to be kind of making your own decision and figuring out what makes the most sense for you. Are you a bull? Are you a bear? One side will ultimately be right at the end of the day. You can just decide what side of that you want to be on. So ultimately, hopefully you found the information in the video useful. If you did, of course, you know what to do. I do appreciate all of the support, the comments, the likes, the interactions. It does all, of course, really help me out in the algorithm. So I appreciate your interaction. Also, if you have any comments, questions, of course, you know what to do. Drop those in the comment section below. And if you are looking to trade and try to trade some of this volatility, I personally don't do too much short trading. I do have a couple of trades open here, kind of, as we see some of the volatility in the market. But if you are interested, of course, I do have those links in the description below as well. That ICP bonus exclusive on BloFin is actually running out here very soon. So if you are looking to get an ICP bonus, make sure that you go ahead and get signed up there quickly, because like I said, it's not going to be around much longer. And then if you are looking for just kind of a coin agnostic type of value play, BTCC is a great option with that 10% bonus on first time deposits. So if you're interested, of course, feel free to take a look at any of those. I do appreciate all of the support. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.